What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo. Hope everybody's having a great day. Not a great day to be a Philly sports fan right now. It's like we can't catch a break over the last couple of weeks. The Flyers are on a skid. We'll talk about that game last night. The Phillies, what a disaster that was. I'm still not happy about the Eagles trading Haason Reddick. Maybe the Sixers can make us feel better. Maybe. They're back in action tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Will Joel play? As of right now, he's still ruled as being out, but I'll keep monitoring that to see what we got. But we need something good. But maybe Ivan Fedotov can make us feel a little bit better because he looked unbelievable last night in that second period. But we'll talk about that as well. But good morning, everybody. Excited to see the Power Hour crew checking in. So let's get a little roll call in the chat. Make sure you're subscribed to me. Make sure you're subscribed to the JAKIB Sports Network. We're also right here on TikTok. But let's get into it. I want to get a little roll call. We got Flexin' and Steppin', number one in the chat today. Good to see you, my friend. William Stark asking about Isaiah Rodgers. Why hasn't the NFL reinstated him yet? That's a good question, William Stark. So let's talk about that. Let me put a note here. I want to talk about the Isaiah Rodgers issue and situation. So good question, but let's keep going through the roll call. We got David Laprati in the house. Flexin' and Steppin' says, Snow Curry sent Angel Reese packing last night. Talking about the Iowa LSU women's basketball Elite Eight game last night. There was too much to watch on TV last night. Sometimes there's nothing to watch. You're sitting around, you're like, what the hell am I going to watch today? You're on Netflix, you're trying to stream stuff. There were too many things. We had the Phillies game going. We had the Flyers game going. We had the Elite Eight women's basketball game that I never really was into women's basketball, but even I'm on the edge of my seat watching Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, LSU. I can't stand the LSU head coach. She just annoys the hell out of me. Everything about her annoys the hell out of me. And I don't know why. Let me know if you agree with me in the chat. But we got Jason A-Team in the house. Prolific. Who else we got here? Decoy Gaming, M. Reyes, Twiz, Soul Vane, Daz, Carlos Drew, Matt Beach, Adams Exploits here in the house. Slagger, Kevin Savard, David Laprati. I still love you, David Laprati, but I'm not happy with you after what you told us yesterday here in the chat. Who else we got here? 11-17. Bry Guy. Man, we got the whole crew. The whole crew here today. Damon Miller says, if the Sixers are our only hope, we're doomed. You may be right with that one. But a lot of people checking in. Good to see you. Mike is right in the house as well. Apologize if I missed you. We got a bunch of people checking in on TikTok as well. Appreciate all of you being here. But let's get into, we'll talk about the Flyers and the Phillies and the Sixers. We'll do some Eagles talk. Are you worried about Bryce Harper? We'll get into all of it, but I just want to answer the question that came in off the chat about Isaiah Rodgers. So Isaiah Rodgers, obviously, if you follow this show, you know I'm excited about Isaiah Rodgers. But if you don't know who he is, he was a corner that was with the Indianapolis Colts in 2022. He got suspended for gambling. He was suspended the entire 2023 season, but immediately upon being suspended, the Indianapolis Colts just cut him. So Howie Roseman swooped in, boom, signed him right away because the kid was one of the best young corners in the league with the Indianapolis Colts. You look at his Pro Football Focus grades, he's up there with some of the best in the entire league in 2022. Played mostly outside corner. The concern, though, is he has not been reinstated yet by the NFL. So why? Now, if you follow me on the radio, I was on with Tyrone Johnson last week, and Tyrone actually played a clip of an interview that Isaiah Rodgers did that I had not heard. And I don't even know where the interview was from. And they were asking Isaiah Rodgers about this gambling and what happened. And he blamed it on his family. He said, hey, look, I made a mistake. I made some bets for family members. But then there was some chatter about there were bets made from his phone during a game. Something about an over-under on Jonathan Taylor's rushing yards. So that all has you concerned, because if this was just a simple gambling violation, there should be no reason why he wouldn't be reinstated. But if it's a little bit more than that, if there were truly some bets being made in-game about your own player on your team, because it was an over-under on rushing yards, could they try to make an example out of Isaiah Rodgers? Now, I reached out to some people, and I was told Isaiah Rodgers will be good to go this season. So what I'm thinking and what I'm hoping is the only reason why the NFL hasn't reinstated him yet is because of all of the publicity around the Shohei Ohtani incident right now. Because think about it. We talked about how Howie Roseman and the Eagles, using PR 101, released the information about a bad trade of Haason Reddick on a Friday afternoon. PR 101. We'll look at it from the NFL's perspective. If they were to announce right now that Isaiah Rodgers, who was suspended for gambling, was being reinstated right around this whole Shohei Ohtani stuff, probably isn't a good look for the NFL. So I understand why they maybe want to pull back a little bit and not make that announcement yet. That's at least my hopes. But from who I reached out to at the Eagles, they seem to think Isaiah Rodgers is going to get reinstated. And I think if he does, he's going to be a big part of that defensive back room, especially outside corner. I know John McMullen on Birds 365 has talked about how he could see Isaiah Rodgers moving into the slot. Maybe. We just have never seen him do it. You look at his first couple years in Indianapolis, he's barely ever played slot corner. He's been mostly an outside cornerback. But you look at this Eagles team, well, Slay's probably not moving inside. You look at Keely Ringo, if he in fact is the answer on the outside, I don't think Keely's moving inside. He's not built really to be a nickel corner. So you look at Isaiah Rodgers, he appears to look like a guy who could slide inside, but he's never done it before. So that'll be interesting. I still firmly believe, and maybe I'm going to be proven dead wrong on this, but I still firmly believe that your nickel corner next year is going to be Zach McPherson. I truly believe Zach McPherson is going to prove a lot of people wrong this year. They were so excited about him last season in training camp, and he blew out his Achilles. So be on the lookout for Zach McPherson this year, because he's also in his contract year. So we'll talk about that in a second, because Reed Blankenship just got his extension. Obviously, Landon Dickerson got his. I know a lot of people want Devontae Smith to get his, but there's some other players on this team who are eligible, and Zach McPherson's one of them. So be on the lookout for Zach McPherson. But I want to switch gears. We're going to get back to the Eagles talk. We're going to get back to the Eagles talk in a second, but we got to talk some Fly Guys, man. We got to talk Flyers. And I saw somebody liking the shirt. So I got this one in Minnesota. So I actually bought this before the Eagles won Super Bowl 52. This was in the days before, walking around the Mall of America where Media Row was. And I went into a store and they had this. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And I bought it before they won, because it doesn't really say they're the champs. It just has the logo. But, yeah, it turns out the sad thing is if they would have lost this game, I never would have worn it again. But they won, so I don't have to worry about that. But anyway, let's talk Fly Guys. So the Philadelphia Flyers lose 4-3 in overtime last night, but that wasn't the big story coming out of the game. The big story is obviously what Tortorella had to say after the game, which we'll talk about. But the bigger story, Ivan Fedotov, who wasn't even here a week ago, who it looked like he was never going to play in Philadelphia, ever, somehow, to start the second period, Tortorella calls his number. And 6'7", Ivan Fedotov comes into that game. Now, I disagreed with Torts a little bit. If he was ready to play, where you could put him in the second period, why not just start him? Why put him in that situation? But Fedotov, didn't matter what kind of position they put him in. He was unfreaking believable last night. And that's not an overstatement. The Philadelphia Flyers were outshot 17-3 in the second period. And Fedotov was standing on his damn head making stops. You saw how athletic he was coming out of the net. He's good at stick handling. I'm excited for Fedotov. Like, he did not look out of place at all. I mean, you think about this. The guy just got here. He's still breaking in new pads. He's never played in the NHL before. You throw him into a game like that, that really matters. There's only 6 games left. Last night, 7 games left. You're in a playoff run at the Wells Fargo Center. The place is going nuts, and Fedotov looked as calm as can be, man. Making saves, playing the puck. So I'm excited about Fedotov. What I wasn't excited about was this game mattered for playoff seeding. This was probably the biggest game of the year to date. And now all of these games, these 6 remaining games, every one of them is going to be the biggest game of the year because the Flyers are in a tight race right now. And what I didn't like is that the Flyers didn't even show up in that second period. And John Tortorella had to say this after the game. He said there are certain people that don't have a clue how to play or just don't have it in them to play in these type of situations. That was embarrassing in the second period for the Philadelphia Flyer uniform, the way we played, end quote. Torts didn't hold back. And then when he was asked about Fedotov, he said, I'm totally impressed. I put him in a hell of a spot, and he's the only goddamn player that played in the second period, end quote. So Torts was not happy with the effort from the Flyers last night. And it was hard to be happy. Look, we're talking about games that matter. It's April, and we're talking about games that matter. So I'm happy. I'm excited. The Flyers have exceeded all expectations this season, something none of us thought was going to happen, that they have a real shot to make the playoffs. But they looked like crap last night. And Torts is right. It looked like guys didn't know how to play when the games mattered most. So there's 6 games left. They're third in the Metro right now. They're back at third in the Metro. But if you really look deep, it doesn't look good. Because even though they're a point up on Washington, Washington has 3 more games to play. So the Flyers have 6 games left. The Capitals have 9 games left. And the Flyers are only a point ahead of them. So that's going to make it tough for them to be the 3rd seed in the Metro. Well, then you got to look at the wild card. Well, they're a point up on the Red Wings, but the Red Wings have 7 games left. The Flyers only have 6. And you can't even rule out the Islanders now because the Islanders are only 4 points back, and they have 8 games left. So they have 2 more games than the Fly Guys. So look, Flyers are on break until Friday. This is a great time for them to maybe regroup. They look tired. They look really tired. But they have 6 games left starting Friday, and they need to get some freaking points. They need a win because you look at their last 3 games. They've played against teams who are not currently in playoff contention, and they're 0-2-1 in their last 3 games against 3 not great teams. See, this was supposed to be when the Flyers made their move. They had 6 games against teams not in playoff contention, and they've started 0-2-1. So coming up on Friday, they start a back-to-back. They got the Sabres on Friday night. They got the Columbus Blue Jackets on Saturday. And this is 4 straight road games now. Then they go to Montreal. Then they go to the Rangers in New York. So you're going to see Fedotov again, either Friday or Saturday, because they're not going to make Ersson play a back-to-back. or Fedotov play a back-to-back, I wouldn't think. So you'll probably see Fedotov and Ayerson this weekend. But Fly Guys need to get their crap together, man. Because even though I said we're playing with house money right now, even though we never expected this, the fact that they've been in a playoff spot for pretty much the entire season, if they were to miss the playoffs after the season they just had, be devastating. Absolutely devastating. And I hope I didn't jinx them. See, I hate this. So I'm a season ticket holder now. I told you I got my tickets back for the Flyers. So I hate that they do this, but I guess they have to. But the Flyers email you, and they write to me, and they say, hey, do you want to opt in for 2024 playoff tickets? But they're not even in the freaking playoffs yet. So I hate it. I got to write the email, yes, I'm opting in for 2024 playoff tickets, even though they haven't made the playoffs. I guess it's got to work that way. But I always think it's like you're jinxing the damn team. Sometimes they even send you your damn tickets before they're even in the playoffs. And you got these tickets leading all the way up to the Stanley Cup. You got Stanley Cup tickets that you can't even use. I hate that they do it that way. Anyway, so we'll see what the Flyers do. But I see people talking about Tortorella, both on the TikTok chat and in the YouTube chat. Listen, I love Tortorella. I really do. I don't think there's another coach in this league that could have done what Tortorella has done for the Flyers this season with how well they've played this season. But yes, you cannot deny that how hard he coaches them can sometimes go the other way. But we're going to learn a lot over the next 6 games about this team because they looked like they hit a wall, but now you get a few days off. So let's see what they do on Friday night. And hopefully they make the damn playoffs because I want selfishly playoff hockey. We've been talking about this now for months. I've been telling you I want playoff hockey back in South Philadelphia. But it wasn't a great night in South Philly last night because not only do the Flyers lose in overtime, they do tie it up with only 9 seconds left. I didn't really talk about that. Great, what's the word I'm looking for here? Resiliency from the Flyers. Because although they didn't play very well, they hung in there and they tie it up, Morgan Frost, with only 9 seconds left, which was great. So at least they get the point. But then across the street at Citizens Bank Park, the Phillies are driving me crazy already. We're 4 games into the season, and they're already driving us crazy. So Christopher Sanchez gets the start on the mound yesterday. Good outing for Sanchez. Really good outing. He was up 2-0. Unfortunately, he gives up the lead. But it's a 2-2 game, and he turns things over to the bullpen. Hoffman looked okay. Strom looked okay. Marte looked okay. Alvarado looked okay. And then they go to the 10th. And in comes Connor Brogdon. And this is when I'm flipping back and forth because you had the Flyers on. You had LSU, Iowa on. So I'm flipping back and forth. And then I go back to the Phillies game. It's like, what the hell happened? Bases are loaded. But they don't have any more hits. Because Connor Brogdon walked 3 damn batters to load the bases. And let's talk about before that what happened. I didn't even talk about it. Before I even get to the frustration over Connor Brogdon, how does Bryson Stott and Johan Rojas, who's put in the game as a pinch runner, both get picked off? How the hell does that happen? How do you go into the game as a pinch runner and get picked off? Explain that to me. So frustrating as hell. I know it's only been 4 games, but it's the way they're losing. So then you go into the 10th inning and Connor Brogdon loads the damn bases and then gives up a grand slam. A grand slam in the 10th inning. Now, he didn't walk 3 batters to load the bases because a batter starts on second. But he gives up a grand slam. So you go back to 2022. Connor Brogdon looked really good in 2022. In that postseason, he pitched 8.5 innings, scoreless innings. But then he struggled last year. And now he just looks like you got to put him down in AAA. After the game, he's talking about his mechanics, and he just can't be trusted. Now, I know Kirkring's still on the IL, but when Kirkring comes back, Brogdon's got to go down. He has to. The guy we don't have faith in him. He doesn't have faith in himself right now. So send him down to AAA. Maybe he can get it together. But I'm still not going to overreact to the Phillies. It's a long season. I'm not going to overreact to the Phillies. Oh, I got Tyler Ninmo on TikTok saying, you guys have been fans for many, many years and still can't figure out that they always fail. Listen, we've experienced a lot of heartbreak in this town. We definitely experienced a lot of heartbreak. But I'm still not going to overreact. I know the bullpen hasn't looked great, but I think there are enough good arms in that bullpen that the bullpen will be fine. It's only been 4 games. I get it, 4 of 162. And I'm going to ask a question now. That I asked on Twitter, and some people are saying, oh, you're a clown. Clown tweet. Well, are you concerned about Bryce Harper? And that's the question I'm asking right now. Are you concerned about Bryce? Because I get it. It's only been 3 games for Bryce because he sat on Sunday. But if you go back and you look at his spring training, he looked off in spring training too. You go to spring training, he had 5 hits in 28 at-bats. That was a batting average of .179. 179 he batted in spring training. 0 home runs, only 1 RBI. And he barely got the ball in the air. If you go back, Bryce barely hit a fly ball in spring training. And then he comes out the first 3 games of the year, 0 hits in 11 at-bats. He's batting 0 right now. Obviously 0 home runs. Obviously 0 RBIs. And I know he always starts slow. Last year was different because he wasn't healthy. But even look at his prior years with the Phillies, he started a little slow. But something just seems off, man. I don't want to panic. It's Bryce Harper. He'll get it together, hopefully. But you just look at it, it's not only these 3 games. You go back to spring training, he didn't look right in spring training either. So what do you think? I mean, are you concerned at all? I see people talking about Harper asking for the extension, but put that aside for a second. Are you concerned at all about what you've seen from Bryce Harper, spring training into the start of the season? Or are you just chalking it up to, hey, slow start, it's only 4 games, he's going to be fine? So flexing and stepping saying it's not looking good for Harper. But is anybody concerned, or should we just preach patience here? Should we just say, hey, it's Bryce, he's going to be fine? Curious, my producer Xander's a huge Phillies fan. Xander, let me know in the chat if you're concerned at all. Because you usually are level-headed. Let me know if you're concerned about Bryce. Twiz is saying it's early. Bry Guy thinks that he has some concern, definitely. It just, he doesn't look right to me. If he was hitting the ball hard all through spring training and to start the year, yeah, it'd be fine. He just looks off. Steel City says he'll be okay. James Carbo, he's got back issues from playing first. Too much bending. He's used to playing outfield. That's from James Carbo. Chuck Hutton, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, look, we'll see what happens. It is 162 games. Let me see what my man Xander, my producer, had to say. Xander says Bryce not looking good and the bullpen still stinks. So he's concerned about the bullpen. Solvain, hell of a long season. They started slow last season. William Stark, the longer it goes, the more I'm concerned. So we'll see. I just don't like the way he's been swinging the bat even through spring training. So I know we're saying, hey, it's only 3 games for Bryce in the regular season, but we're now looking at a sample size of 39 at-bats. If you look at his spring training at-bats and then his 11 at-bats so far through the 3 games, that's 39 at-bats. He's got 5 hits, and he's barely got the ball off the ground. So let's hope it's not anything to be too concerned about. Let's hope. All right, I got people checking in on TikTok. Earnshaw says, not concerned yet. Come back to this after the next 10 games. More concerned about the pen. And you're probably right, Earnshaw. Let's see what Bryce Harper does over the next 10 games before we start panicking. I'm not panicking. I'm just asking the question, like, what's up? Because he hasn't looked great. And I see people talking about James Carbo saying, well, he's got back issues from playing first. And then you look at what Rhys Hoskins is doing with Milwaukee, and I was completely okay with letting Rhys go. I'm not going to sit here now and revisionist history being like, oh, they should have kept Rhys Hoskins. But if there's any truth to what James Carbo's saying, which, James, you're not the first person to say this about Bryce Harper with his back injury having to play first base, is that going to be a long-term issue? Well, then if it is, you should have kept Rhys. Not that Rhys was a great first baseman fielder, but at least it would have left an opening for Rhys Hoskins. But look, we can't have revisionist history. But I want to do some Eagles talk as well. So we talked, people are checking in late. What did we talk about? We talked about the Flyers. We talked about the Phillies. When we get back, I want to do some Eagles talk. Talk a little more about Haason Reddick. He said his goodbyes on Twitter. We'll talk about that. And then I also want to talk about Reed Blankenship's extension and then what this could mean for some other players. And we'll do some Sixers talk as well. And I see people in the chat talking about Carson Wentz. So when we get back, we'll get into all of that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back into the Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo. Appreciate everybody spending the hour with us here today on JAKIB Sports, my YouTube channel, and TikTok. So while we were on the YouTube break, my man Max on TikTok is saying that Rob Thompson's a horrible manager. And he asked, why take Wheeler out? Why take Sanchez out? Why keep Brogdon in? So, first off, I said to him, you can't say that Topper's a horrible manager. You may be able to disagree with certain decisions he makes. Sometimes he makes questionable decisions. But in 2 years with the Phillies, they've gone to the World Series and they've gone to the NLCS. I don't think you could say this guy's a bad manager. He frustrates me at times. Decisions he makes at times frustrate the hell out of me. But he has had a lot of success as the manager. But with regard to Mark's question about why take Wheeler out, why take Sanchez out, I was okay with it. It's March when Wheeler's on the mound. It's April 1st when Sanchez is on the mound. I don't think you need to beat these guys into the ground right now, this early in the season. So I was okay with Wheeler coming out. I know he only pitched, 85, 89 pitches, something like that. But I was okay with it because it's March. Now, if we're a little bit later into the season, yeah, I don't want to see you take out Wheeler when he's pitching a gem with only 80-something pitches. But it's still so early, Mark. So, but let's talk some Eagles because we're talking Phillies. I want to talk about the Eagles. Now, I see a lot of people asking me about the Haason Reddick situation. Now, if you haven't followed me or you weren't here yesterday, I don't want to get into it again because I went off yesterday. Follow me on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter. You will know my position on the Haason Reddick trade. So to summarize it very quickly, what's up, Tony Stromboli? To summarize it very quickly, I don't like to trade. I don't like to trade at all. Everybody who's here knows I don't like to trade. If you follow me, you know that. If you also follow me, you know that I'm usually pretty positive. I'm not one of these over-the-top negative guys. But when I look at that trade, I hate it for so many reasons. I don't think it helps you in 2024. I think you took the one position that you had confidence in, edge rusher, and now turned it into a question mark. You don't get any draft capital that can help you this season. You don't get any cap space that can help you this season. So if we were going all in this season, which it looked like they were doing, why you get rid of one of your best, if not the best, defensive player on your roster makes zero sense to me. So Haason Reddick actually said his goodbyes today on Instagram and Twitter. And this is what Haason Reddick had to say. Philadelphia, saying thank you is not enough to express my gratitude for the love and support you showed me in my time as an Eagle. Bird Gang, it was an honor to play for you, as your love for the game and your city is a feat to behold. To my teammates, brothers forever, new challenges and teams will never sever the bond of friendship made on and off the field. To the Eagles organization, thank you for the opportunity to play in my home city. This was a dream for any kid growing up in Camden. To my family, you are the backbone of my life. Without you, I would never have been able to achieve my dreams. New York and gangrene. I'm excited for the next step in this journey. I cannot wait to get to work. That was Haason Reddick's goodbye. Refers to his teammates as brothers forever. Says the bond of friendship made on the field can never be severed. Well, that doesn't make sense because all I keep hearing is he was a locker room cancer. That's what everybody wants to say. That's what all the fans are saying now. All the fans who have just turned on Haason Reddick for no reason. That's the other thing I talked about yesterday. It just bothers me. It's you can't question Howie Roseman ever in this town. So many people. In Howie we trust. I get it. I think he's a good GM. This one was a mistake. This one was a big mistake. So I don't want to get into it too much. We talked about it at length yesterday. Well, I see Josh Coffin on TikTok saying he was going to hold out. See, this is where I disagree with a lot of people. I was not one of the people saying that they should just call his bluff, tell him you're not going to pay him more money, play under your current deal. Because you're right. He didn't want to play here under his current contract. And I agreed with him. I don't think he should have played here under his current contract. He was entering the final year of his deal, a deal that was severely, severely low for his position, for his skill. He was a good soldier for 2 years. He played under that deal for 2 years. Never missed a game. But as he entered his final season, I would have loved for them to give him an extension. Now, I wouldn't have paid him $30 million a year. But I'm very curious to see what the New York Jets pay him. Because if it's anything under $25 million, I would have done it. If the Jets give him an extension, 2 years, for anything under $25 million, Eagles should have matched it. Without a doubt, they should have matched it. And Crowley on YouTube saying he's not going to get $30 million a year. I agree. He's not. So that's why I think they should have just given him an extension. And I understand fans are saying, well, he demanded a trade. He wasn't going to play here. No, what he wanted was a better deal. And he deserved a better deal. I don't think you can deny that he was severely underpaid. And I also am not buying the issue where people are saying, well, he's going to be 30 in September. I get that argument, and I make that argument at corner and safety. I don't want 30-year-old safeties. I don't want 30-year-old corners anymore. Darius Slay maybe is the outlier at 33. But you saw what happened with James Bradbury. That does not apply to edge rushers. Edge rushers can still get after the quarterback at 29, 30 years old. Now, Max W. on TikTok. The Eagles are the one who basically forced this trade. He said he never told them he wanted to leave. I agree with Max. Reddick never said he wanted to leave. What Reddick said was, I want to be paid more. And if you're not going to pay me, then I'm going to seek a trade. He would have loved to have stayed here if they would have given him more money, and they should have given him more money. But I don't want to keep talking about this. We got to move on. I got people getting mad at me already because yesterday I was just going nuts on Twitter about this because I'm not happy in the slightest about this move. And Barbara Carroll makes a good point on YouTube, says, well, why is BG still on the team? And I love Brandon Graham. But if you're one of these fans who says, oh, you got to get rid of Reddick because he's going to be 30. He's going to be 30 in September. Well, how old's BG? Keep bringing him back. Marty Gilman says Arnold Schwarzenegger made Terminator 2 at 45. Paul G. Dogs on TikTok says he thinks Nolan Smith's going to have a breakout season. Well, I hope you're right. But this was my whole problem with the trade. Is you've taken a position of strength. When you had Haason Reddick, it was a position of strength because of you added Bryce Huff. Because you're hoping Nolan Smith can take a big leap in year 2. The problem is, Paul, is as much as I'm hoping Nolan Smith has a breakout season, we don't know. He could. Bryce Huff could be really good playing more than 480 snaps. See, that's the problem. And Corey saying Bryce Huff's going to be better than Reddick. All of these are could-be's. So I would have been completely okay with the way the salary cap is, with it going up every single season. You know it's going to go up again next year. You basically said, hey, we're going all in. You brought in Saquon Barkley for 2 years, essentially. So why not bring Reddick back too? And now you've helped your entire defense. Because if you had a pass rush that included Reddick and Sweat and Huff and hopefully Nolan Smith, and hopefully Zach Bond, and you're able to rotate these guys through, think about what that does for your entire defense. It helps your corners. It helps your safeties. It helps your linebackers. But now we just got a bunch of hope and a bunch of could-be's on the defense. So that's my concern. But let's talk about some other Eagles news, because Reddick's on the Jets, unfortunately. So there was a picture posted on Saquon Barkley's Instagram, which was kind of cool. Him and Jalen Hurts working out together already. Between the two of them, they could squat probably, 1,500 pounds? So the tush push should be fun to watch this year. But they also signed Reed Blankenship to a 1-year extension, extending him through the 2025 season. Now, that was a good move. Now, sometimes in the NFL, it's actually better to be undrafted than drafted late in rounds. Because Reed Blankenship was undrafted in 2022. If he had been drafted, let's say Reed Blankenship was drafted in the 7th round, he would have had a rookie contract for 4 years. He would not have been eligible for a new contract until he completed 3 full seasons. See, this is where the NFL gets you. When you get drafted, you're not eligible for a new deal until you've completed 3 full seasons. You're on your rookie contract for 4 years, and you can't even get a new deal until after 3. That's what's going on with Brock Purdy in San Francisco. So Brock Purdy was taken with the last pick in the NFL draft. Mr. Irrelevant. You've heard it a million times. Well, Brock Purdy would have been better off not getting drafted and signing somewhere as a rookie free agent, because he would be eligible for a new deal right now. He'd be entering the final year of his deal, and he'd be entering the 3rd and final year, which means he'd be eligible as an undrafted rookie. But because he was drafted, he's not eligible until he completes his 3rd season. So that's why Reed Blankenship was eligible, because he was undrafted out of Middle Tennessee in 2022. So he started 15 games last year. He started 4 games in 2022 when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got hurt. He's been up and down, but this was a good move, because basically what you did is you avoided him becoming a restricted free agent in 2025. So you blocked him up. Smart move. So what does this mean, though, for some other players on the team? Because I just told you, when you're drafted, you got to go 3 full seasons before you're eligible. Well, that was Landon Dickerson. So you got to look now at all their 2021 draft picks, because all the 2021 draft picks are now eligible for new deals. Well, Landon Dickerson was eligible, so he got his new deal. But understand how it works. If you're drafted in the 1st round, you also come with a 5th-year option. 1st-round draft picks, 5th-year option. Every other draft pick, no 5th-year option. 2nd through 7th round, no 5th-year option. So all of the guys who were drafted in 2021, outside of Devontae Smith, are entering the final year of their deal, the true final year of their deal. Landon Dickerson was taken in the 2nd round. He got his new deal. Now, some other players, we'll talk about Devontae in a second, but some other players who are now eligible: Milton Williams, 3rd-round draft pick, defensive tackle, entering the final year of his deal. No 5th-year option because he was taken in the 3rd round. That's where I'm putting my priority right now if I'm Howie Roseman. I know everybody wants to extend Devontae Smith. So do I. We'll talk about it in a second, but that's not the priority for me, because he has a 5th-year option. For me, my priority right now is getting an extension in place for Milton Williams, because I think Milton Williams still has not scratched the surface of his potential. He's gotten better every single season he's been with the Eagles, from his rookie year to his sophomore campaign to his 3rd season last year, and I'm extremely excited to see what Milton Williams is going to do in a Vic Fangio defense this season, now that Fletcher Cox is retired. Milton Williams is going to play a big role this year. Jalen Carter, obviously. Jordan Davis needs to step up as well, but Milton Williams is going to play a big role. And if they're truly going to run a lot of 3-4 with a true nose tackle, Jordan Davis, well, guess who's going to be to his left and to his right? Jalen Carter and Milton Williams. So I'm really excited to see what Milton Williams can do, but you better lock him up now, because if you let him play this season, which is the final year of his deal, without an extension, and he balls out, that price tag's going to go way up. So Milton Williams is my priority before Devontae. And I'll talk about Devontae in a second. They do have to get an extension done, but it's not as urgent as Milton Williams because Devontae Smith has a fifth-year option. But some other names. Zach McPherson is eligible for a new deal. Now, if he didn't blow out his Achilles last year, he probably would have got one. But they may let him play this season. We'll see. We'll see what they do with Zach McPherson. Because I said before the break, I truly believe Zach McPherson's going to be your starting nickel corner this coming season. So what you may see them do is maybe extend him in the middle of the season, see if he's healthy, see what he can do. But he's another player who's eligible. Kenny Gainwell is eligible because he was a fifth-round draft pick in 2021. So will they extend Kenny Gainwell? Maybe, maybe not. I know they like him. I know they're high on him, but they may not find the need to extend him. We know what they think of running backs before they sign Saquon Barkley. But Kenny Gainwell is not a weapon like Saquon Barkley. Solid running back, but I don't think they're going to extend him, but he's eligible. Another player who's eligible is Marlon Tupulotu, defensive tackle. Got some playing time last year, made some nice plays when he got in. He may have more of an expanded role this season as well, but not really a priority to extend him. And then there's two other guys. 6th-round draft pick, Teron Jackson, hasn't done much. 7th-round draft pick, Patrick Johnson, hasn't done much. Both of those were defensive ends who barely play defense, just get a lot of special teams time. So, and I see Dom checking in on TikTok. Don't forget about Moro Ojomo. Absolutely. And if you follow me, you know I've talked about Ojomo before. He's just not eligible for a new deal. I'm talking about guys eligible for a new deal. Ojomo just finished his rookie season, so you still have him for 3 more years under that rookie contract. But I want to talk about Devontae Smith because a lot of people want to see the Eagles extend Devontae Smith. So do I. But everyone has to just relax. It's not a priority right now. It's just not. You have his 5th-year option. Let me get the dates. So they can exercise the 5th-year option all the way up until May 2nd. So at some point before May 2nd, you'll hear that they've exercised Devontae's 5th-year option. That will happen. And I'm sure they want to get an extension done sooner rather than later. And I would do it as soon as possible only because the price tag's going to keep going up. You saw what happened with the wide receiver market this year. Guys like Darnell Mooney are getting paid. Calvin Ridley's getting paid. So I think you're going to have to pay Devontae Smith more than you paid AJ, most likely. AJ got 4 years, $100 million. You're probably going to have to pay Devontae around the same. I think you're going to have to give him an extension that's going to average $25 million a year too. But there's no rush other than you want to do it before the salary goes up next year because they're going to exercise the 5th-year option and then they can continue to negotiate. But to me, the priority is getting Milton Williams done because he is entering the final year. You still have control of Devontae for 2 more seasons. So they'll get that done. All right, let's switch over real quick. Oh, also, I want to talk about 2 things NFL. 2 things NFL. First off, Dallas Cowboys, because we had a guy in our TikTok chat who was the most realistic Cowboys fan I ever seen, said we're going 3-14, the Dallas Cowboys. Well, this is how bad things are in Dallas. I know Big Sills is reporting that they're exploring trading Dak Prescott. I'd be shocked if they did that. I understand why they would want to because he's entering the last year of his deal, but he's got a no-trade clause. He's got a no-tag clause. But here's how desperate they are. They're talking to Zeke Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott could be going back to the Dallas Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott coming off career lows in yards, carries, yards per carry, touchdowns. Because they got nobody. They lost Tony Pollard. They can't afford anybody else. So things are bad in Dallas. But I also want to talk about something that the UFL is doing. I'm not really watching the UFL games, I'll be honest with you. I can't get into them. But one of the things the UFL is doing that I think the NFL, not just the Eagles, that I think the NFL should implement is what they're doing with their ball spotting. The NFL, multi-billion-dollar company, still uses the antiquated way of measuring first downs with literally a guy holding a thing and chains. Like, we're literally spotting the ball by a guy standing there looking to where to spot the ball, and then you run out these old guys with chains who measure for the first down. Like, are you kidding me? With all of the advances in technology, that's how we're measuring for first downs in 2024? So you look at what the UFL is doing. They got like 6 or 7 4K cameras, like calibrated and put all over the stadium. And they're calling it, I think it's True Line technology, that they're able to spot the football and measure for a first down like instantaneously with the highest accuracy we've ever seen. Why would the NFL not implement that? And I know there are some NFL fans who are these traditionalists who don't want to see anything change. Don't you just want accuracy? Don't you want to be watching a game where if your player on the team you're rooting for that gets the first down, that you want it to be spotted correctly, and you don't have to worry about the coach throwing the challenge flag, and then you can't see, well, it's not conclusive because there was a player in front or they're in a pile. No, give me the 4K cameras. Give me the True Line technology. Give me accuracy. So if I'm the NFL, I'm looking at what the UFL is doing on that because that's pretty cool. Chris B on TikTok says Zeke is fresh, not many carries last year. Okay. 3.5 yards a carry he averaged, Chris. Bonsai says they're not going to implement the True Line technology because it's how the NFL cheats. Maybe you're right, man. Maybe you're right. All right, let's talk some Sixers. Sixers back in action tonight against one of the best teams in the West, best record in the West, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Is Joel coming back? Anybody seeing anything on Twitter? I'm really hoping he is because I got to do a freaking postgame show tonight. That'll be a lot more fun if Joel plays. But everything I was seeing is that he hasn't been ruled as being in this game. But Joel comes back, if not tonight, maybe Thursday night. 7 games left. They're 2.5 back of the Pacers. They're a game and a half back of Miami. But the interesting thing is, and I said this yesterday, the way the NBA structures their playoffs, that as long as the Philadelphia 76ers don't finish as the 8th seed, they would avoid the Boston Celtics until the Eastern Conference Finals. And my man Flexen and Steppin's laughing at me because he knows I've been trying to be positive about the Sixers, and he just wants me to give it up. But you look at this, you look at the way it's structured. They do more of a bracket, which doesn't make sense to me, but the NBA does more of a bracket, kind of like the NCAA March Madness bracket. So as long as they don't finish as the 9 or 10 in the play-in tournament, and they can win the play-in game as the 7 or 8, then they would be made the 7th seed. Does that make sense? So if they finish as a 7th or 8th seed, they play in that first play-in game. If they win, they're the 7th seed. But if they lose or they finish as 9 or 10, the best they could be is the 8th seed. So that would mean their first round matchup would be against the Celtics. But if they just finish, right now they're in the 8th seed. If they finish in the 8th seed, Joel comes back, they win their play-in game against Miami. Let's assume it's Miami. They got the Bucks round 1. I think they could beat the Bucks with a healthy Joel. Listen, I'm not being blindly positive here, okay? Hear me out. I'm not saying that I expect the 76ers to do much, but you can't deny that there is a possibility that if Joel, the best player in the NBA, joins this team, maybe the deepest team he's ever had. We haven't seen him play with Kyle Lowry. We haven't seen him play with Buddy Hield. We haven't seen him play with Kelly Oubre the way Oubre has been playing over the last 15 to 20 games. And you add literally the best player in the NBA, the MVP of the NBA. They could absolutely make some noise in the playoffs. To ignore that, I think, is being over-the-top negative. I'm not saying to be over-the-top positive. I'm not saying to say, oh, they're going to the NBA Finals. That's not what I'm saying. But if Joel comes back, to deny that this team has a shot to do something in the playoffs, to me, is just ignoring the fact that you got the best player in the NBA. Now my man Niners all damn day is being sarcastic in the chat. Anyway, tonight, if you're not doing anything after the game, tune into The Fanatic. I'm going to be on hosting a Sixers postgame show, hopefully talking about Joel Embiid's first game back. But I also want to talk about Carson Wentz real quick. We're running out of time. But Carson Wentz signs a one-year deal with Andy Reid and the Super Bowl champ Kansas City Chiefs. So Wentz is going to back up Patrick Mahomes? Is Andy Reid going to get the best out of Carson Wentz? Be interesting to see. Could you imagine if Carson Wentz gets a Super Bowl ring again as a backup? I hope not. That would mean the Chiefs win their third straight, but pretty interesting. All right, like we end every Philly Sports Power Hour with a little Today in Sports History. And for my WWE fans, we got WrestleMania coming to Philadelphia this week. I was at WrestleMania 15 when it came to the Wells Fargo Center. I'm trying to remember. I think Stone Cold beat The Rock. I think Mankind was the referee. Just trying to remember. I think that's what happened. But April 2nd, because we're going to keep it with the WrestleMania stuff, April 2nd, 1995, WrestleMania 11. Lawrence Taylor beat Bam Bam Bigelow. Who remembers that one? So our Today in Sports History, April 2nd, 1995, Lawrence Taylor beat Bam Bam Bigelow. You remember him? He had the tattooed flames on his bald head at WrestleMania 11. Some people don't like WrestleMania. I see you in the chat. Anyway, appreciate everybody being here. Love that you spend the power hour with me. Make sure you're following me everywhere so I can keep you updated where I'm going to be and when. But we'll be right back here tomorrow, 10 o'clock. This was the Philly Sports Power Hour. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. Hit that subscribe button. And as always, go Birds.